My parents freaked out when I bought a house. Without consulting them later, I found out they expected my sister, her husband, and their 3 kids to move in. I said no and went no contact. Can you fathom your own family? The very people sworn to love and support you, attempting to seize your deepest aspirations from right beneath your gaze? Because that precisely is the raw, unsettling truth of what unfolded in my life. And believe me, it irrevocably reshaped everything. My name is Lucy. I'm 30, an investment analyst by profession. I'm adept at what I do, remarkably so. Some might label me excessively cautious with finances, but that's simply the marrow of who I am. Growing up as the younger of 2 sisters, I learned early on that self-reliance was my only path to achievement. My sister, Sarah, 3 years my senior, was perpetually the golden child. The beautiful one, the social luminary, the one who could seemingly do no wrong in my parents' adoring eyes. Don't misunderstand, I cherish my sister, but their unmistakable favoritism was a pervasive shadow over my childhood. It wasn't solely about material things. It was the unspoken expectations. They anticipated Sarah's effortless ascent to success, while I was merely present. Sarah married Tom straight out of college. He works in construction, and they wasted no time in cultivating a family. Now, they have 3 children, Emma, 7, Lucas, 5, and little Joey, a toddler. They're sweet kids, but Sarah's perpetual lament revolved around the arduous task of managing them within their cramped, rented apartment. My own path, however, held a peculiar fortune. My best friend Jenny's parents, kind souls, own several properties. For the past 5 years, they've graciously rented me a charming 1-bedroom apartment at half the market rate. They trusted me implicitly, and I've never offered them a single reason to regret it. My savings account wasn't just a bank balance. It was a testament to years of unwavering discipline, a carefully cultivated refuge against economic uncertainty. Since start of my career, I've approached saving with religious zeal, living well below my means, meticulously preparing meals at home, opting for public transport. All those seemingly insignificant choices amassed into a formidable sum. My colleagues often playfully ribbed me about my frugality, but I harbored an unwavering plan. I've always nurtured a potent dream of owning my own sanctuary, specifically a modest country house. The pandemic had ushered in remote work for my firm, meaning I only needed to commute for crucial meetings. A peaceful haven, distant from the city's relentless thrum, seemed absolutely perfect. Just last week, I finally delved into my savings, truly confronting the numbers. After years of meticulous planning and disciplined accumulation, I had it. Enough for a substantial down payment on a quaint country home. I spent hours poring over real estate websites, meticulously scrutinizing potential properties. Nothing extravagant, just a warm, private space to call my own. I was immersed in these listings when my phone chimed. It was my mother, her timing, as always, impeccably inconvenient. "Lucy, honey, don't forget we're expecting you for dinner on Saturday," she announced, her voice carrying that subtle undertone of command cloaked as a gentle reminder. "Sarah and Tom are coming with the kids, and please try to be on time for once." That Saturday, I pulled into my parents' suburban driveway at precisely 5:55 p.m. Sarah's minivan already dominated the space, forcing me to park on the street. Before my hand even touched the doorknob, the familiar pandemonium spilled from inside. Emma and Lucas, no doubt, engaged in their perpetual chase, while little Joey contributed to the cacophony with his toddler-pitch squeals. "Lucy's here," Sarah declared as I entered, barely glancing up from her Sisyphean task of coaxing Joey to consume mashed potatoes. The children, engrossed in their own vibrant universe, barely registered my presence. Mom, in her element, flitted about, fussing over everyone and everything. Dad was already ensconced in his favorite armchair, newspaper tinted before his face. "Everything's getting so expensive these days," he grumbled from behind a newsprint. "Have you seen the price of gas?" "Highway robbery, that's what it is," Tom chimed in, helping himself to another generous serving of Mom's lasagna. And my boss, what a piece of work. Yesterday, he comes in, right? Completely changes the project timeline without even consulting the team. Who does that? Sarah nodded sympathetically at her husband, deftly wrestling with Joey's bib. At least you get to leave the house. Try being stuck in a cramped apartment all day with these three. I seized the opportune chaos to surreptitiously check my phone beneath the table. There was that perfect little cottage I'd been coveting. 2 bedrooms, a generously sized kitchen, a glorious garden. The price, miraculously, fell squarely within my budget. I was so absorbed in the luminous photos that I didn't register Mom's watchful gaze until her voice cut through the dinner chatter. "Lucy, what's so interesting on that phone? You've barely touched your food." Every eye at the table swiveled to me, and a flush of warmth crept up my cheeks. I could have fabricated an excuse about work, but a sudden, unfamiliar boldness, a flicker of defiance, surged through me. Actually, I heard myself say, the words a quiet declaration. I'm looking at houses. I'm thinking about buying one soon. The conversational din dissolved instantly, replaced by a vacuum of silence so profound it seemed to suck the air from the room. Even the children, usually impervious, sensed the shift and paused their antics. "Buying a house," Mom repeated, as if verifying an impossible claim. Well, yes," I responded, already regretting my candor. "I'm just looking at options right now. Nothing definite." "What kind of house?" Sarah interjected, her voice oddly sharpened. "I haven't really decided yet," I demurred, attempting to pivot the conversation. "Hey, Mom, this lasagna is amazing. Did you change your recipe?" But I could practically feel the gears whirring in their minds. The unspoken thoughts were almost tangible, a complex tapestry of calculation and judgment. My parents exchanged one of their practiced, meaningful glances, and Sarah continued to cast furtive looks at Tom. The usual dinner chaos eventually resurfaced, but an invisible seismic shift had occurred. The remainder of the evening felt dislocated, as if everyone was performing their roles by rote, their true focus elsewhere. A week later, the peculiar tension of that family dinner had almost faded from my memory. Work consumed my days, and my evenings were dedicated to researching mortgage rates and property taxes. I was in the middle of a Zoom meeting when my phone vibrated insistently, my mother's caller ID blazing on the screen. I let it go to voicemail, but she called back immediately, then twice more. Finally, during my lunch break, I returned her call, anticipating some dire emergency, given her relentless persistence. "Lucy, finally." Mom's voice practically vibrated with excitement. "I found a perfect house for you. You won't believe how perfect it is. Martha, you remember Martha from church? She told me about this listing in her neighborhood. It's absolutely ideal." I set down my lunch and pressed my fingers to my temples, a premonitory headache already forming. "Mom, I haven't even asked for help finding a house," but she was already in full, glorious flight, her voice a relentless torrent, impossible to interrupt. "It has 4 bedrooms. No, 5. The master is enormous. And these adorable children's rooms with built-in closets. Oh, and a backyard. It even has a playground installed. Can you believe it? And the location is just perfect. Walking distance to St. Mary's Elementary School and the public library." "Mom," I interjected, my voice strained. "That's really not what I'm looking for. I want something small in the countryside for me." She made a sound of clear displeasure. "Well, don't come crying to me when you realize I was right." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, a knot of frustration and guilt tightening in my stomach. But I had little time to dwell. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Sarah. "Hey sis, check this out." What followed was a barrage of links to real estate listings. Every single one was a massive family home in the city. For the 6 bedrooms, multiple bathrooms, huge yards, all conveniently located near schools and parks. I typed a quick reply. "Thanks, but I'm actually looking for something smaller in the countryside." Sarah's response was immediate. "But these are such good deals. Look at this one. It even has an in-law suite." More links continued to flood in. Throughout my afternoon meetings, my phone vibrated ceaselessly with Sarah's messages, each offering another house listing, each grander and more aggressively family-oriented than the last. I stopped checking Sarah's messages after the 20th listing. Instead, I called Amanda Chun, a realtor I discovered through glowing online reviews. She had a reputation for truly listening to her clients, which was precisely the sanctuary I needed. I want something small and cozy, I explained. A country house, but not too far from the city. Excellent internet connection is crucial, as I work remotely most days. Perhaps a small garden where I could cultivate some herbs and vegetables. I outlined my budget, and her eyes lit up. I think I might have exactly what you're looking for. It just came on the market yesterday. Want to take a look this weekend? The house lay about 40 minutes from the city, nestled discreetly off a quiet country road. The moment Amanda's car crunched onto the gravel driveway, a visceral certainty bloomed in my chest. This was it. Not just a house, but a promise, a sanctuary. The cottage was perfect, charming, 2 bedrooms, with white siding and dark green shutters. A welcoming wraparound porch cradled 2 rocking chairs, and mature maple trees cast dappled shade across the front yard. Inside, sunlight streamed through generous windows, illuminating an open-plan living area. The kitchen, though compact, was thoughtfully updated with butcher block countertops and new appliances. A rustic wood-burning fireplace dominated one wall of the living room. Upstairs, 2 modestly sized bedrooms offered peaceful retreats, along with a full bathroom featuring a charming clawfoot tub. But it was the sunroom at the back of the house that utterly captivated me, that sealed the deal. Windows on 3 sides gazed out over a meticulously tended garden, replete with raised beds and a petite greenhouse. The owner is motivated to sell quickly, Amanda mentioned, her voice soft as we stood in the sunroom, bathed in golden light. She's willing to offer a discount for a fast closing. I didn't hesitate. I want it. The following week was a dizzying blur of paperwork, mortgage applications, and negotiations. I opted for a larger down payment than required, ensuring comfortable monthly payments. Each night, I drifted to sleep gazing at photos of my future home, mentally arranging furniture, meticulously planning my garden. When every document was signed, every official stamp applied, I felt an almost ethereal lightness, as if I were walking on air. I yearned to share my joyous news with my family, despite their earlier clumsy attempts to steer my decisions. The subsequent Saturday, I drove to my parents' house for dinner, practically vibrating with excitement. Sarah and Tom, with their brood, were already there, as always. We settled around the table, and Mom served her traditional pot roast. The usual litany of complaints and observations drifted through the air. Tom's latest workplace drama, Sarah's Herculean struggles with the kids' school schedules, Dad's somber commentary on the economy. Then Mom turned to me, a peculiar smile playing on her lips that made my stomach clench. "Oh, Lucy, I'm so glad you're here. I was just talking to Barbara next door. She's selling her house. You remember Barbara's house? She's willing to give us, you a good price. You should really consider—" Actually, I interrupted, unable to contain myself any longer, the words erupting from me, sharp with a joy I could no longer suppress. "I've already bought a house." The clatter of cutlery against plates ceased abruptly. Emma's cartwheel, mid-performance in the background, froze. The silence was absolute, heavier than any I'd ever experienced. I drew a deep, fortifying breath and began describing my new home, my voice brimming with unbridled enthusiasm, despite the palpable tension now suffocating the air around the table. "It's this beautiful cottage, about 40 minutes outside the city. 2 bedrooms, the most amazing sunroom, and there's even a small greenhouse in the backyard. The previous owner had these gorgeous raised garden beds. Are you out of your mind?" Dad's fist slammed onto the table, making the plates jump, the sudden violence of the sound startling. I had never witnessed such raw fury from him. Joey, predictably, erupted into tears. What?" I stammered, completely blindsided by their venomous reaction. "How dare you?" Mom's face had turned an alarming shade of crimson. How dare you buy a house without consulting us first? After everything we showed you, all those perfect family homes we found, I felt as though I'd stumbled into some surreal, twisted, alternate reality. Why would I need to consult you about buying my own house with my own money? Because we had it all planned out. Mom was practically screaming now, her voice shrill. Barbara's house would have been perfect, right here in the neighborhood. Plenty of room for everyone. Room for everyone? I repeated slowly, a creeping sense of dread mingling with my confusion. It's just going to be me living there. The silence that followed was even more profound than before. Mom and Dad exchanged weighted glances, while Sarah sat there with an eerily placid expression on her face. Tom suddenly found his plate utterly fascinating. "Actually, Lucy," Mom said, her voice now dangerously calm, a tone that sent a shiver of ice down my spine. "The plan was for Sarah, Tom, and the children to live there. With you." I stared at her, my mind refusing to process the words, waiting for the punchline, the reassuring burst of laughter. It never came. "I'm sorry, what?" I managed to choke out. Sarah nodded, as if this were the most natural, obvious arrangement in the world. "We're so cramped in that apartment, Lucy. It's really hard on the kids. Your house would have given us all the space we need." She smiled, as casually as if discussing borrowing a sweater. "And since we wouldn't have to pay rent or utilities, we could finally start saving some money." My gaze swept around the table, desperately searching each face, waiting for someone to crack, to exclaim, "Gotcha!" or erupt in genuine amusement. But all I met were dead serious expressions. Dad's stern disapproval, Mom's righteous anger, Sarah's entitled expectation, Tom's awkward avoidance. "You?" I struggled to form coherent words. "You all just assumed I would buy a house for Sarah's family to live in." "Well, of course." Mom threw up her hands, exasperated. "That's what family does. We help each other." "Help each other?" I repeated, incredulity lacing my voice. "This isn't helping. This is expecting me to provide housing for 5 people without even asking me." "You're being selfish," Sarah snapped, her calm facade finally cracking. "You know how difficult it is for us in that tiny apartment. Emma and Lucas have to share a room, and Joey's crib is in our bedroom. It's not fair to the children." I felt as if I were drowning in an ocean of pure madness. The room seemed to tilt, blurring at the edges, as the full, crushing weight of their expectations descended upon me. They had, all of them, sat there for weeks, meticulously blueprinting my future, dictating how I should spend my hard-earned money, without ever once considering my desires, or even feeling the need to consult me. "You need to cancel this ridiculous purchase immediately," Mom demanded, her voice sharp with a misplaced authority. "Mom," I finally managed to cut in, my voice trembling but firm, "I appreciate you thinking of me, but that's not what I'm looking for at all." There was a stunned pause on the other end. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice gentle but resolute. "I'm looking for something completely different. I want a small country house, something cozy, just for me. I don't need multiple children's rooms or a playground." "Don't be ridiculous," she scoffed. "You can't just think about yourself. You need to plan ahead. This house is perfect. It's even on sale. Martha says the owners are motivated to sell quickly." "I know what works for me," I stated firmly. "I want a quiet place in the countryside where I can work from home. Our realtor first thing Monday morning. Barbara's house is still available, and it's perfect right here in the neighborhood, close to all the good schools and kindergartens." "No." I pushed myself up from the table, my chair screeching against the floor, the sound a punctuation mark to decades of simmering resentment. The single word, fueled by a lifetime of unspoken frustrations, resonated stronger than I had ever intended. The dining room erupted into pandemonium. Mom sprang from her chair, gesticulating wildly. Dad's booming voice drowned out everyone else. The children, sensing the raw tension, began to cry. "But we'll be so cramped," Sarah wailed, as if she hadn't heard a single word I'd uttered. "Do you know how hard it'll be to get the kids to school from all the way out there? Emma has ballet on Tuesdays. Lucas has soccer on Thursdays." I spun to face my sister, something primal snapping inside me. You're not going to be cramped anywhere, Sarah, because you are not living in my house. None of you are, ever. Is that clear enough for you? The room fell into an immediate, shocked silence. They stared at me as if I had suddenly sprouted a second head. The entitled astonishment on their faces was almost comically grotesque. "Lucy," Mom gasped, clutching her pearls dramatically. "How can you be so cruel to your own sister?" I snatched my purse and strode towards the door, their voices rising again, a frantic clamor behind me. I couldn't bear to hear another word. I got into my car and drove home in a daze, their enraged screams still echoing in my ears. Sitting alone in my apartment later that night, a torrent of memories flooded my mind. Christmas 1999, Sarah received the coveted, expensive American Girl doll she'd longed for, while I got the knockoff version from the discount store. They look exactly the same. Mom had insisted, but they didn't. Our 16th birthdays, Sarah woke to a brand new Volkswagen Beetle, adorned with a giant red bow. I inherited Dad's ancient Honda, burdened with 150,000 miles and a chronic tendency to break down. High school graduation, Sarah's celebration was a lavish, catered affair in the backyard, complete with a hired DJ and bespoke decorations. Mine was a quiet family dinner because, as I was told, we had too many expenses that month. College, Sarah attended her dream school, every expense meticulously covered by our parents: tuition, room, board, even a generous monthly allowance. Meanwhile, I spent my senior year of high school applying for every scholarship I could find, burning the midnight oil to maintain my perfect GPA, knowing it was my solitary shot at higher education. And now, here we were. After years of relentless favoritism, of showering Sarah with everything while I toiled for scraps, they simply assumed they could lay claim to my house, the one accomplishment I had achieved entirely on my own. They had intended to hand over my dream home to Sarah, just as they'd handed her everything else. I was in the midst of packing my kitchen when the aggressive pounding began on my apartment door. The coffee mug I was carefully wrapping in newspaper slipped from my hands, but thankfully landed on a soft pile of packing paper. "Lucy, open this door right now." My father's voice boomed through the solid wood. "We know you're in there." I froze, bubble wrap still clutched in my hand. More insistent pounding followed. "Go away," I shouted back, my voice shaking. "I'm not discussing this anymore. Don't you dare talk to us like that." Dad's fist made the door rattle violently in its frame. "We raised you better than this." My hands trembled as I picked up my phone. "If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police. I mean it." I pulled up the keypad on my phone and deliberately pressed 9, ensuring they could hear the distinct beep. "I'm dialing right now. You ungrateful little..." Dad's curse was abruptly cut off by Mom's sharp intake of breath. "We'll leave," Mom's voice, cold as ice, declared. "But this isn't over, Lucy. You're making a terrible mistake." I listened to their footsteps retreating down the hallway, then slid down against the wall, my heart hammering against my ribs. I had foolishly believed that confrontation would bring closure. I was wrong. So utterly, painfully wrong. An hour later, the digital onslaught began. The first message from Sarah arrived, a photo of Emma and Lucas cramped together on their shared bunk bed. "Look how little space they have," the caption read. "Emma can't even have a desk for homework." I didn't respond. Another photo followed, Joey's crib wedged into the corner of Sarah and Tom's bedroom. "He wakes up every time we come to bed. This isn't fair to him." Delete. When I continued to ignore her, Sarah's messages devolved into a cruel torrent. They started arriving at all hours: 2 a.m., 4 a.m., 6 a.m. "You always were Dad's least favorite. Mom cries herself to sleep because of you. I hope you're happy all alone in that big house while your nieces and nephews suffer." I blocked her number, then her Facebook, then her Instagram. But she relentlessly found new avenues to reach me, creating new accounts, using Tom's phone, even setting up fake email addresses. Then the phone calls started from every direction. First, it was Aunt Marie. "Lucy, honey, I just heard what's happening with your sister. Surely, you can find it in your heart to help family." Next came Uncle Bob. "Kid, you need to think about what really matters here." Family comes first. My mother's best friend, Susan, your mother, is devastated. How could you do this to your own family? Even my old high school teacher, Miss Peterson, whom my mother still saw at church. Lucy, I always thought you were such a kind student. I'm so disappointed to hear about this situation with your sister. They all delivered the same insidious message. I was selfish, heartless, cruel. I should sacrifice my house, my dreams, my hard-won independence to solve my sister's problems. Not a single one of them seemed to question why Sarah's housing situation was, inexplicably, my responsibility. After 2 agonizing weeks of this relentless harassment, I had reached my absolute limit. I went to my mobile carrier and changed my number, entrusting it only to my workplace and a handful of trusted friends who hadn't been swept into my family's emotional vortex. Moving day itself was wonderfully quiet. I hired a moving company I'd never used before, carefully ensuring there was no conceivable way for my family to trace my new address through familiar local services. The movers were efficient, professional, and by sunset, I was standing in my new living room, surrounded by boxes and limitless possibility. That first night, perched on my new porch swing, a steaming mug of herbal tea cradled in my hands, the symphony of crickets replaced the urban cacophony I'd long tolerated. Under a canopy of unfamiliar, dazzling stars, a profound tranquility settled over me. It was a release, a letting go of a tension I hadn't even realized had been a constant companion for decades. Of course, I still occasionally encounter their social media posts. Sarah's passive-aggressive status updates about family betrayal and selfish siblings. Mom's thinly veiled posts about ungrateful children and the sanctity of family duty. The comments from relatives and family friends, all unequivocally taking their side, oblivious to the full, messy truth. But here's the unexpected thing. None of it touched me anymore. Their words couldn't penetrate the sanctuary of my new home or the newfound resilience within my spirit. I transformed the second bedroom into a dedicated home office, positioning my monitors to face the window where I could watch birds visit the feeder I'd installed. The previous owner's raised garden beds now burst with vibrant herbs and vegetables. My first foray into gardening proved surprisingly successful. The greenhouse became my weekend project, slowly filling with lush plants that imbued the space with a living, breathing vibrancy. My work productivity, untethered from constant family interruptions, actually soared. My boss noticed, bestowing more responsibility and a well-deserved raise. I even began taking online courses in advanced investment strategy, expanding my expertise without a single voice to tell me I was wasting my time or should instead be focusing on finding a husband. Certainly, there were fleeting moments when I yearned for the idea of family, not the painful reality of my own, but the dream of what a truly supportive family could be. Those moments, however, usually evaporated swiftly when I recalled the profound peace I had gained in exchange. I forged new connections in the area. Other professionals working remotely, a convivial local gardening group that convened monthly, neighbors who respected boundaries and harbored no entitlement to my space or time. None of them knew my family history, and I profoundly preferred it that way. They knew me simply as I am, not as the fractured reflection my family had relentlessly tried to force me to be. The ironic truth is, I'm probably embodying my parents' original aspirations for their daughters far more authentically than Sarah ever did. They raised us to be independent, successful women. They simply never anticipated I would be the one to actually achieve it. And they most certainly never expected my independence to extend irrevocably to them. Sometimes the most vital, nurturing family you can have is yourself. At least until you choose to expand it on your own terms, in your own time, in your own uniquely chosen way. And for me, that is more than enough. So, I ask you, have you ever confronted a betrayal so profound, a family expectation so utterly suffocating, that breaking ties became an act of self-preservation? What would you have done truly in my position? Share your thoughts below. I genuinely want to hear your perspectives.